lysosomes are found in animal cells. Lys means to die or destroy. L-Y-S, destroy. Let's say destroy. And some again is body. So what lysosomes are, they're actually the garbage disposal of cells. Garbage disposal. They, what happens is when we get stuff into the cell, they fuse with those vesicles and carry those foods and pathogens to the lysosomes, and then the lysosomes inside there disassemble it. They are acidic in their environment. They have enzymes which then have enzymes that can live in that environment and then break down those particles. Particles such as food particles enter the cell and create their little vesicle, and then they fuse with a lysosome, and then the lysosome then breaks down the particles into their building blocks. Now lastly, in this session, let's touch about on the fact that the plants are so ingenious, they have even the ability to make their own foods. They can make their own glucose from carbon dioxide, CO2, and water and light. How great is that? Let's next talk about the chloroplasts. The chloroplast is where we do photosynthesis. Chloroplasts have, like mitochondria, their own DNA and ribosomes. They're also made of an inner and outer phospholipid bilayer. You see here, we have an outer layer here, and then we got an inner layer right in here. On the inside, we have a stack of fluid-filled membrane sacs, and they're called thylakoids. Right in here, you see these stacks of fluid-filled sacs in there. A stack of them is known as a granum. Right in here, you see a granum. And then they're inside a fluid-filled solution called a stroma. Chloroplasts look green because they're filled with chlorophyll, a green pigment that captures light energy and then drives photosynthesis, which makes that glucose. So the chlorophyll is key here. Chlorophyll. The green pigment that captures light. We will soon dive deeper into a few of these processes that some of these organelles we just described do. Particularly fascinating is the cellular respiration, the process of how we make energy, and also photosynthesis as well, how we make the glucose. And then later on we also talk about the genetic material and how cells divide and make protein. All very fascinating stuff. Looking beyond the cell's boundary, in the intercellular spaces, we find the extracellular matrix. Extracellular matrix. Oi, oi, oi. All these big words. It gets even worse. I know, the wordplay is a little silly, but it is important because I believe it is part that makes the reading science textbook so difficult, and all these new words. The best I found through my school career, honestly, I studied best by listening to the teacher, taking notes, and then read the captions of the pictures in the textbook and around the bolded words. I have to be very cautious because difficult understanding language puts me right to sleep. Forever, I felt bad and thought it was my being slow and stupid. Sorry for using that big word, but self-talk can be quite aggressive. Later, nowish, I learned that it is actually not me, it is rather the book, the presentation method. I know this because it still happens when I prepare for these videos. I still fall asleep. And if I still fall asleep knowing this stuff, I'm not so sure it's me. So I'm please advocating to you, learn as much as you can of how your brain works, and then use those ways to learn new things and take in information. And also learn how your brain best processes information. I, for example, like pictures, and lots of visualization helps me understand concepts. I then use flashcards to help me remember these concepts. Writing them in my own words and with my hands is very important for my brain to remember. It's a little painful because it's very slow. But the good news is, after it's in the head, it stays in there for a long time. It's also a reason why I write on this board, and I want you to take notes and don't just I don't just present the written material like it's a PowerPoint presentation. We need to be active. Anyway, check out my section on flashcards in which I explain why I still think that good old system is a very, very fantastic one. Use this class, for you to find out the way that you study best. What works best for your brain. It's very individual. Anyway, back to ECM, the extracellular matrix. We also call it ECM in medical circles. It helps cells form tissues. It does that by holding them in place and also allowing them to communicate and talk to each other, coordinate their function through that. The ECM is made of ground substance and fibers. So we have ground substance and fibers. Ground substance and fibers. The most common fiber type is collagen. We can see that right here. You see we have a collagen fiber right here. It acts like the superglue in the body, holding structures together. Its tensile strength is very, very high, and it resists being pulled apart. We also have elastic fibers. Elastic fibers. So we have collagen, we also have elastic. We did collagen already there. We have elastic fibers as well. They are, as the word suggests, stretchable and then return back to the original shape, like a rubber band. We find those, for example, in our ear, in cartilage. Have you seen or have you wondered why can you do this and it goes right back to the original shape? The third fiber type weaves together and helps form sieves that act like strainers or filters. That type is quite wiggly looking and is called reticular. Reticular. The ground substance is the rest. Its composition depends on the tissue type. In bone, for example, it's hard calcium, and in blood, it's mostly water. Ground substance has a lot of proteoglycans, which are bristle-like molecules made of protein and carbohydrates. We have here proteoglycans, and see we have the core here, that's more protein-like, and then we have the carbohydrates attached to it. Because of their composition, they're also known as glycosaminoglycans, or GAGs for short, sugar protein sugar molecules. The name definitely implies they're both working together. Water gets trapped in these bristle-like molecules, which makes them swell up. This helps resist compressive forces, which is, for example, why we see tons of this stuff in the cartilage at the ends of bones that need to resist compression when we walk, for example, in the knees. Knowing that, make sure to take some sips of water through the day, that these bristles are all filled up with it, and give your cartilage some cushioning power, so to speak. Of course, the other way we can nurture them is by actually using them. See, light compression, such as walking, provides the knees and squeezing of a cartilage. And that squeezing, like a sponge, gets rid of the old water and squeezes the weight out and soaks up new material when it expands after being compressed. If we don't do that by sitting too much, for example, the cartilage will over time deteriorate. So, to all of us who can, get up and move once in a while. All right, enough of that doctor lecturing. Let's move on to cell communication.